Good morning, friends, teachers. What we do here on this channel quite a bit is we keep a sense of the whole world, right? By which I just mean, in this case, simply planet Earth, right? I'm assuming we're on planet Earth. Here's a symbolic Mercator. If you remember from a previous video, that's actually a string of binary numbers, 150 by 50 numbers, and it's translation from base 10, a prime number. This is more a way to glue concepts together. It's kind of like, it's a clever trick. You might say it's a gimmick, as my professor Rorty might have put it. But really, the thing is to help you keep things together in your mind. So, prime number, binary, array, Mercator. There's a lot going on in one picture. I call it binary world. And more than that, ASCII art. ASCII art has been a theme here because I'll do some very primitive graphics sometimes in order to get across the concepts. Now, this property has been in recent videos. It helps to orient my place-based presentation, and that here on the right is the boyhood home of one Linus Pauling, who later went on to kind of discover a lot about what we would consider basic chemistry, orbitals, hybrid orbitals. It's not that he discovered orbitals necessarily. You know what I mean, right? Schrodinger equation. The probability that you'll find electrons here or there in an atomic ecosystem. And this has gotten more and more colorful with time, and it's part of the same complex. All three of these were tied together legally in a single sort of campus arrangement. They share a parking lot in the back, for example, but they're being sold off, and so the separate ownership of the middle one is already a fait accompli. Also, the apartment up back and this front property are considered separable and separate. So that's place-based education in a sense. Now, what's really fortunate for me in my case, having chosen this particular Hawthorne Boulevard as my place, is that there's a lot of interest in that place anyway. And one of the local friends, a member of the Friends meeting, has come up with a new book on the Hawthorne Boulevard that I'm talking about. Hawthorne being Dr. Hawthorne of the Hawthorne Mental Asylum. It wasn't always called Hawthorne Boulevard. It was called Asylum Avenue for some time. And there's a picture of it from way before my time. Reese Scholes is the author. Here's another picture. I'm looking forward to having better access to this book. I really like, when I go into a local eatery and they have pictures like this, right? It's kind of fun to see the timeline, to see where you're living has come from, in the past. Now, a couple other things I want to update you on if you're joining this sort of little subculture, which has a lot to do with Americana. We've been doing a lot of West Coast, Columbia Gorge, down to Hollywood, Orson Welles, Hearst, a lot of that, kind of a West Coast focus so far, you might say, not entirely though. Homer Davenport of Silverton and so on. But out there in cyber world, right, there's a geography there too, like what I've called Python Nation or whatever. And the subculture that I'm talking about with Buckminster Fuller, who connects through Emersonian thinking to such individuals as, well, Kyoshi Kiramiya we talk about, and the civil rights movement. So Dome is another site that I've just recently joined. There's some stories about my joining that going back a couple videos, and in my blogs as well. I had a difficult moment when it looked like grunch.net might have been lost off the hosting site due to corruption of the WordPress layer, and by one way or another that led me to stumble upon this interesting website where I've been posting and participating to some level. One more I want to talk about is By the way, even more so, Gerald's site. This is not a site that you join necessarily, but it is the way of the future, I would say, with tensegrity, and that now we have a primitive programming language invented by Gerald and an app to back it up. So it's not just a programming language, it programs a machine here that he's also used to go all the way through to production, from virtual to actual tensegrity standing there in your studio. You don't necessarily have to take it that far, though. It's fun to play with just as an app, right? So I encourage you to check all this out. Now I wanted to mention about this site called Talkie. Where is that? By the way, you can also check me out on Quora. I tend to just specialize in answering Python-related questions. I'm gonna have to go to my history to find the Talkie place. So here we are. Yeah, I did have a tab for that open. So, Talkie, is that what it's called? And yes, Area 51. Just remember that. I won't put a link. It's just called Tracks 51, and so far there are about 10 or so, 12 comments. The last 3, these are little audio tracks, and we're talking about Fuller's book Critical Path, and we're just leaving some audio tracks behind. My most recent one is talking about Kyoshi Kuramiya some, right? The adjuvant on Critical Path, Fuller's assistant there. Guy of Japanese heritage. I've often mentioned on this channel how Fuller worked with gentlemen of Japanese heritage throughout his life, starting with his meeting Isamu Noguchi in Greenwich Village. That was the lifelong friendship. This is Buckminster Fuller here on the right. And then later, of course, Soji Sadao. And then still later, for example, Kyoshi Kuramiya. All right, so Pirate Party planks. I've been having a lot of fun exercising my political freedoms, and we're getting really close to the election. I have my ballot here. This is the Oregon voting system. This is not anything unusual for us to have it by mail. This is how we've been doing it for a long time. And I'm going to put my ballot in here after I fill it out. And I have an optional secrecy sleeve that I don't have to use. And I'm not sure, it's kind of like a doily or something, or like an extra protective layer. And then the ballot itself. And so I haven't filled it out yet, obviously, because I just opened it there. But I will. All right, I'll talk to you guys, and enjoy your day.